Hey guys, and welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live and it is Friday night, and I need a fucking drink.
We all do.
It's been one of those days. I hope everybody in the chat is doing well. Sound off who we've got. You know, we'll get more into where this misery of ours is coming from. You know, some of it's just life and
It's very recent.
It's very recent, but we still have an exciting show, mind you. There's going to be a lot of good stuff, and guys,
Yes.
I'm just giving you a good fair warning right now. Grab your popcorn and grab your drinks for some stuff that's going to be happening on later. But before we get there, let's introduce the panel, starting with Kees Cornelisse. Kees, what's up?
Good evening, everyone. Very, very recently it has been pretty shitty because of our reaction. Unfortunately, we won't have one today because of major technical difficulties. So yeah, I'm sorry for everyone who was looking forward to that. Just couldn't do it. There was too much shit going on. I do want to say that my week started off pretty awesome. At least last Sunday, Max Verstappen, the Dutch racing Formula One driver, won the Grand Prix in fucking spectacular fashion. One of the best races I've ever seen. Period. So that was just awesome. That started my week off really well. So I was having a pretty good week so far, up until very recently.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Nico, would you like to come join our misery?
Okay. Okay, so for reasons I can't explain publicly, at least not now, Sunday was a bit rough. And then Monday was a bit rough up until we had a great episode of Monday Night Raw for the first time in Lord knows how long. And then SmackDown picked up the momentum the next day. And so in terms of this week, it's been a good week for wrestling. And then the Time Machine won yesterday, so that was also real fun. We had a great reaction to that. But
we had a reaction to that. Chris had a different reaction to that.
Let it go, let it go.
Never. Dude,
but
it's been one day. We're not gonna let it go this quickly.
But today's reaction, as well as our last story for this particular first hour, it has brought me nothing but misery.
Yeah, no, and don't get me started on all the shenanigans of yesterday with I don't care. I don't care about stupid fucking airports and whatnot. It's just like yeah.
But our second hour is going to be fantastic.
Our second hour will be fantastic. It will be great. And guys, I want to give you all. I'm just gonna give a little transparency because that's what we like to do. We like to be honest with you guys, the fans. That's why we've said all over Twitter and whatnot that unfortunately we didn't we're not getting a reaction out today. But for Winston Marshall, who we did tape an interview with him just today, and we will be airing that during the second hour of the show. However, that was pre-taped, so technically speaking, it's only half of a live show, but that doesn't mean that we're not gonna, be around in the chat and talk with you guys.
To be fair, the difference is that we taped it about 4 hours ago, so it's still quite fresh. It's not that this was days ago. No, it's still quite fresh.
Yeah, I'm still wearing the same, jacket and shirt.
Yes.
But
lighting is a little different in our rooms, but yeah.
Yeah, in your room definitely.
Yeah, so what to say, Nico. Now you seem to have the "Hello Darkness, my old friend" theme going on. So.
I'm gonna go hit a light switch.
I would if I were you. I would absolutely do that.
We got to change the light bulbs in this room.
That probably would help too. But yeah, and honestly, guys, tell us how you're doing in the chat. Tell us what's been new with your weeks.
By the way, I do want to say one more thing. This was the craziest thing. So this morning, I come back from work because I had the night shift, and I went to go into the shower, and I see I have my window open, it's a window above the door, so you open it I don't know, like this. Instead of like this, but you push it from the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. And I see a pigeon sitting on it, and there's shit all over my window, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is happening? Like there was a pigeon shitting on my window, and the moment that I approach and make some sound, he flies off. But I'm like, God fucking damn it! Why is this pigeon fucking sitting here? Anyway, I just wanted to share it.
I was say I can match that. So yesterday after I got off work, again, not feeling very patriotic. Didn't really feel like doing a barbecue or anything like that. So yeah.
But it's the 4th of July. It was.
It was. So I decided to celebrate with my own little bit of patriotism by watching the last season of my favorite show of all time. Yeah, decided to go from the episode The Day of Black Sun all the way through Sozin's Comet.
Yay.
And it had 5 of my favorite episodes in the entire show. Yeah, I was pretty happy about that.
Season 3 is the best.
It has the best episodes. I'm not going to dispute that. The funny thing about Avatar is I think I just prefer the arc in season 2, but I will not argue season 3 has the best episodes.
Can we agree that season 1 is the worst, even though it's still pretty good?
Exactly. It's the weakest of the trilogy, but it's still great.
When you said you were going to match Kees, I thought you were going to match him in animal shenanigans going on in your life.
Or just weirdness.
Yeah.
I actually can match that. So I was taking Luna out for a walk.
No, shit. Sorry. No, I can match that. Sorry. And while I was doing that, there was this fucking squirrel that was, running around all over my patio deck, and it would just run up to the door. It would knock on the door a couple times, and then it would scurry off. And then it would do it a couple more times, then it would scurry off. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? So now I'm getting Christian Harloff here. I got squirrels trying to get at me.
You mean?
Okay. I can match and surpass both of your stories here. So I'm taking Luna for a walk yesterday, and it's a lot hotter than it has been the past couple weeks.
Okay.
This week has been pretty boiling hot. And again, you've seen her on camera before. You know that she is a black-furred dog, and she's a tiny dog. So the heat does not really work well for her because she has a natural color that absorbs sunlight, making her even hotter. And she's so tiny that an inch for me is a mile for her. So I'm taking her for a walk, and we're about to cross the street. If she wants to go down the hill, I want to go across the street and keep going up a different hill. So as we cross the street, she stops under a tree, and she just freezes. And as if she's covered in butter, her leash and harness just slide right off of her head and front arms, or front legs. I mean, she looks at me for 2 seconds, realizes she has freedom, and she just bolts it down the hill back to our house. I'm not kidding. She runs all the way back to our house. I'm chasing her like a madman. And then finally she just stops at our side porch. And I'm like, you little shit. You want me to open the gate now so you can go back inside. And I did that, and then I just finished the walk by myself for another hour. So I walked for 90 minutes in that blistering hot sun, and she was just like, I'm going to enjoy the air conditioning. Sucks to be you.
In the latest episode of Luna's Crazy Adventures comes to a close. Yeah, no, it's... today's just one of those days where I think it's safe to say we could all benefit from having a drink.
Yeah.
Even I'll need a drink.
I wish that the supermarket was still open, then I would have had a little bit of time to just go there. But, well, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Tomorrow. I'll drink tomorrow.
There we go. I think I might join you. But, yeah, so... I'm looking at the chat here, and I'm seeing K. Wolf, Brian Nussbaum, the cool guy. Always great to see all your lovely faces here. Tyler, I see you're here as well. And
Indeed.
yes, you guys can happily come join us for that drink, because with the day we've had... Oh, yeah, go for it.
Speaking of join us, so I figure I should just mention this. Adam Pacitti from the Cultaholic channel, he lost a bet a couple months ago for a wrestling-related pay-per-view, and for the past several hours, I think he's going on 12 hours now, maybe longer, maybe shorter, I'm not sure, but he lost the bet, and the agreement of that bet was if he lost, he had to say the words "You love it" 100,000 times. And
Literally?
he's been doing
No.
that. He's been saying "You love it" over and over and over again all day for about, I think, maybe between 8 and 12 hours now. And he's in UK time, so it's midnight where he is, if not later.
Wait, if it's right now, then it's 2 a.m. for him.
Oh.
Well,
Oh, you poor
there's
bastard.
strong chance he's still going on.
This reminds me of when Chris Clark apologized to the entire Action Army, which was glorious.
Oh.
Seriously, one of the best. I think there was like a 6 or 7 hour stream, and he needed to cut it halfway to start a new stream because he was going too long. One of the best days I've had. Period.
You know what, and speaking of, I just want to get this out there right now. I truly fucking sympathize with him.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what?
Yeah.
But before we get in the news, I have to get this rant off my chest. Because what the fuck? Literally, Schmoedown. Can one of my favorite teams just please stay together? Is that too much to ask? Like,
It is.
you know, first, Schmoes know. My favorite team. Mark Ellis and Christian. They're a solid team. They're great. They were the first team champions. They earned it. In my opinion, I wish they had performed better against top 10 the first time, but what are you going to do? They break up. Then, top 10. My favorite team following them. You know, former champions, got really screwed with the whole Jane Fonda incident, but what are you going to do? And instead, then they break up at Spectacular last year. And now...
Says Jane Fonda right there.
I know. They should have just gotten a new spin at the wheel. That's all I'm saying. But now, Critically Acclaimed is also broken up, and my heart is broken up too.
So who's your new? Hey, look. To be fair, I have the same story. My favorite team was Schmoes. No, they broke up. Then my favorite team was Action. They broke up. So I have no favorite team right now.
Same.
So we're in the same boat. This sucks.
Ugh.
Look, it's not that I dislike any of the other teams. I think there are a couple of good teams out there. Like I really enjoy Who's the Boss or The Family or Corruption. I can enjoy a lot of teams, but I don't really have a favorite like I used to have with Schmoes and Action. So yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be fair, like I think the reason that I became so attached to Critically Acclaimed and Top 10 was because of the Schmoedown, I got invested in their actual shows.
Yeah.
You know, the Top 10 is part of my weekly. You know, I listen to the show every single week, and it's always at the same time. It's my commute home from church on Sundays, because what better way to celebrate Jesus than by two old men yelling at each other over their taste in movies?
Okay, not that old.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Roka is 105. But Nose is kind of young.
Yeah, he's still young. He's just, you know, he's just turned 40. You know, but and yes, Tyler, we're working on, you know, trying to find new teams now.
Yeah, but like it's easy.
Time machine.
They had one match, and they weren't that good in it.
They got 33 points.
Yeah, on sudden death.
I mean, 29 in 3 rounds is still very respectable, but
no, 29 is respectable, but I just don't have a new one right now, and it will take me time, because it also took me time to finally get invested in Action. Like Action, I really got invested in after they beat Trek in the team tournament, and that was like their 4th match, 3rd, something
Fifth.
like that. So Yeah, they already had several matches before that. It took me a while to really get into them. Like, oh, this is a good team, and it probably will take a couple of matches before I really say this is my favorite. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, you know, I get the feeling I'll wind up maybe going to
I
founding.
think I think this next team tournament will really show
Yeah.
good teams that I would want to support. We'll see.
That's kind of my thinking exactly. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a team that wins the tournament, because I mean, for all we know, maybe it's a team like Evil Geniuses, and you know, it's fun to not like JTE. You know, that's always been my thing. Like, sure,
You love to hate him.
exactly. I love Josh Tappy as a person. You know, every time that I've been out in LA, he's just been a sweetheart to hang out with, and he's a great guy. But I'll never root for him. I will never root for him. You know, but it is what it is, and I'm seeing some good suggestions in the chat. You know, and who knows? Maybe I will come around on Odd Couple or The Family. Don't get your hopes up, though.
Dude, you and Andrew Guy? Chris, you know that's not going to happen.
You're right. It's not gonna happen. even though if I've said it once, I'll say it 100 more times. Andrew Guy is seriously just one of my favorite people. But I hate his character so much.
In real life.
In real life.
His character is...
He's the Ramsey Bolton of the Schmoedown, I feel.
Yeah. Because I absolutely adore Ramsey Bolton. And I adore Andrew Guy. And I know that they're evil, but I adore that because they play it so well.
Yeah. And you know, yeah. But like you said, the tournaments are going to give us some new people to get behind and support. So, and you know, and like we've always said, the Schmoedown could not be in better hands than it's ever been. Like, they are just on fire. This is the magic season. As long as Burnett doesn't fuck everything up during his month-long reign of terror.
No, he will.
Oh, it's about to go from magic to voodoo.
Dude, you know he will.
He's got a Tom Jack Nino voodoo doll that he's just been pricking needles at for the longest time. It's got like a weird mask and a Gucci jacket.
Oh, so he can actually afford that Gucci jacket, huh? All right. Let's break into some news before we derail ourselves too much. So speaking of things that aren't really fun, how about that Jumanji trailer?
I'm honestly excited for it, but that's just me.
Now, I actually really like Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. I thought it was a fun reboot of the franchise. I liked The Rock. I liked Kevin Hart. I liked Jack Black and Karen Gillan. And I really liked the world they created in that video game. But that said, this movie just looks rough. Kees?
I recently... Last year, I watched the original Jumanji for the first time. I thought it was okay. That's definitely a movie that a lot of people have like more nostalgia for. It doesn't hold up that well, but it's okay. The other one, Irina and I watched for the first time a couple of weeks ago. We really enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with it. We absolutely adore Jack Black in it. He's so great in that movie, playing the girl. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. And then I see this trailer, and in this trailer, suddenly all the characters that we know and love from the first movie are changed because of the fact that they're different people as the avatars, as the characters in the game. And that's what's going to, make me not like this one, I think. Because they're all different characters. The only one who's the same is Karen Gillan, which, that's good because I love Karen Gillan's character in that first one. But yeah, like as I said, I adore Jack Black because of the fact that he was a girl. If he now has to portray this guy who was Kevin Hart, I'm like, no. And yeah, it doesn't look good. I'm not looking forward to it.
my other issue is that, like, I can tell a lot of the humor is going to come from just one base joke. Old men are funny because they say stupid things. Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, which, granted, I love both of them. Don't misunderstand me, guys. I love Danny Glover. I love Danny DeVito. I love everything they've done for film. But, man, I don't want to see The Rock and Kevin Hart play them. I wanted more adventures from these kids.
Yeah.
Like, for example, let's say they all go back into the game. But now they're different. Like, they changed Avatar somehow. So let's say The Rock is now Ruby Roundhouse, and let's say that Kevin Hart is now Jack Black, like they're setting that up, or just a mishmash. That could be fun. But when your one joke is old men are funny, it just doesn't work for me. Nico, what are your thoughts?
Oh, okay. I have to ask. The trailer to Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. What was your initial reaction to that movie? The trailer.
I thought it looked like a lot of fun.
I don't remember it because back then I wasn't into Jumanji whatsoever. So.
Okay, because I recall thinking that I recall thinking it's gonna be a good popcorn movie, but it'll probably be dumb at the same time when I first saw the trailer. Then I actually see the movie and I'm like, this is really, really good. And so my thinking is maybe this is just a bad trailer and they're hiding the best parts of the movie. Like,
I hope
maybe
so.
Maybe there's an emotional soul to this that we're just not getting a glimpse into just yet.
I hope so.
Because, like, maybe the message is that these kids realize, hey, these elders that we have here, that we can learn a thing or two from them. Maybe we were wrong to judge them initially. Maybe they're not a handicap to have on this journey. Maybe they're an advantage that we haven't realized yet. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But that's something that that's an idea that I've put in my head that gives me hope for this movie. And I enjoyed the trailer when I saw it. So I have high hopes. And also, the idea of Danny Glover being played by Kevin Hart, realizing he should not eat cake, that already makes me excited for what's to come.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad that's like not anywhere really in the trailer, because that scene when that happens in the movie, okay, I'll admit that's already starting to crack me up. That's
I can't eat cake.
Lord.
How is cake a weakness? How can cake be a weakness?
I don't know. Maybe his character's a diabetic, and you don't have access to medicine in the jungles of Africa.
It's what they said in the first movie. Like the moment that he sees,
how
can cake be a weakness? He's looking at the screen like.
Well, Brian Nussbaum actually brings up a good point that usually comedy sequels are hit and miss, usually because you can't replicate the magic of the first one, and that's, for the most part, very true. I mean,
I can pinpoint examples of one of each. Like for Daddy's Home 2, it did not do well. but then you look at sort of like the polar opposite, Bad Moms Christmas. That's an enjoyable sequel.
Or 22 Jump Street.
Or I was to say, or 22 Jump Street. Like, oh, are you kidding me? The Schmidt fuck the captain's daughter moment kills me every time. That's
just what happened. This happened, and you wait for it. Oh
shit! But yeah, I have a lot of hesitation for this movie, and I just hope it doesn't outright suck. But what are you gonna do? at least I have more, at least this next story I actually have a lot of hope for, and that is the Lord of the Rings TV series that Amazon is making. That like we're finally making some headway on production. Now, Kees, you're familiar with the director named J.A. Bayona, right?
Huh?
Now, I know, unfortunately, we've all seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah,
Not a good movie. But hopefully we all saw A Monster Calls.
I did not.
Ah,
Nope.
that movie will rip you to shreds. Felicity Jones is great. Watch it. But he's actually now set to direct some of the episodes for the upcoming Lord of the Rings TV series. And he even said in a statement that it looks like we're going to the Second Age.
Yeah, we know that. That's been confirmed.
And I'm not going to lie, as someone who's read the Silmarillion and is very much in love with this franchise, Case, are you interested in seeing the rise of Sauron and how all that came to be?
I am very interested to see the TV series and everything set in this universe, especially if we are going to see the Second Age, what happened there, because the movies are the Third Age. So in a way, this is a prequel, but I still think they're not going to really. I really hope they don't prequel it up too much, like, oh, fan service. This is what you know. This is going to like there are 1,000 years between these ages, so you can't really do that much.
3,000.
3,000 even. So yeah, it's very disconnected. So I really hope that they make it its own thing. Bayona directing, I don't know. I don't think Fallen Kingdom's issues were the directing necessarily. I haven't seen A Monster Call, so I don't know about that. But yeah, of course I'm excited. Heck, what shirt am I wearing?
Yeah,
Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
Now, Nico, once you finally make the time when you're available to sit down and finish the greatest blockbuster trilogy ever made, would this prequel series excite you to see how some of the backstory of the Lord of the Rings trilogy came to be?
Just the fact that this is coming out at all, it has me intrigued. Because, what's been my biggest complaint about Middle Earth? It's that every movie has been 3 hours long, 4 hours if you're counting the
Extended edition.
extended cuts. Yeah.
There's nothing
the
wrong
thing
with that.
But it's mostly a problem with me than it is with a problem with the movies. I struggle to sit down for long periods of time unless I have that personal investment from the get-go to actually take the time to sit down. But the thing about television is that you can break it down. You can shorten it into digestible bits. And if it's an Amazon series, then it'll probably be like 45 minutes to 60 minutes long per episode. So I think I'll be able to sit patiently and get the gist of what I'm watching without thinking about, oh God, I've been here forever. How long is this? Good or bad. So I think this will be a good way to help me ease in to Middle Earth. And plus, Lord knows that as soon as this series is made, it's going to end up on the Phantom TV wheel or the TV Trivia Schmoedown Inner Geekdom wheel when that's made down in the future. So it'll help to have that in my back pocket.
Fair enough. And as I mentioned, with Bayona, yes, he is technically, 1 for 2 in terms of good movies. But one thing that I will give Fallen Kingdom a lot of credit for is that during the as short as the character moments in the movie are, they are actually fairly effective. And I would say he is a good director who knows how to get good performances out of his actors. He knows how to really approach the story from an intimate perspective. And I really get the feeling that if he's the one who's taking this on, at least his episodes are going to be a little more intimate and will really dive into that sort of power dynamic that was happening between the dwarves, the elves, and the race of men as they all eventually had to come together to fight this great evil who was Sauron. And while I understand how some people are like, but Sauron wasn't this metal monstrosity that we see in Fellowship of the Ring. That's true. But that was Jackson's interpretation.
That's Jackson's adaptation, yeah.
Yeah, and if this series is going to sort of follow along with that to sort of show that, like, how Sauron went from being this beautiful, tempting elf to the Dark Lord that he became, yeah, that calls for intimacy, and I think Bayona is the guy to pull it off. So that said, bring it on, baby. I'm excited. I'm stoked. I'm all cocked up for this show.
Also, Doug Walker made a very fair point when he did Old versus New, and that was the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings from '78 versus the new Lord of the Rings, where Sauron
he brought up that same point.
Yeah, Sauron in the Peter Jackson movies is not that great of a villain because, well, when we see him, he is like, Hulk smash! And he just smashes a lot of people. And other than that, he doesn't do anything. Now, of course, the series has a lot of great other villains. Saruman, Gollum, the Witch King of Angmar. So, Smaug even in the Hobbit trilogy. So, in terms of that, they're good. But, yeah, Sauron, the big evil that they talk about throughout all these movies, is not that great. So it would very well help to see more of that in this TV show.
He's kind of like the Emperor. Like, the Emperor is very good in Return of the Jedi, but he's made even better once you add in the context of Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, as well as the Clone Wars TV show.
So we're going to have Sauron say, do it.
Yes!
And I am the Senate. I am the Dark Lord.
I am Mordor. Hashtag wrong franchise.
Hashtag make Middle Earth great again.
Woo!
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God.
I went there.
I was going to say, all right, Ryan, Adam. Ryan, we love you. And just a heads up, guys, Ryan is actually at work tonight, so that's why he's not here. Otherwise, I'd love to hear his thoughts on some of this stuff, but like I said, unfortunately, he's not here tonight. But we're gonna move on to speaking of Make America Great Again, we got some news coming out about Bond 25, and in particular Rami Malek, who we now obviously he's been slated to play the villain for a while now. He's been confirmed and whatnot. But we actually got a fun little tidbit of information about his character. And initially, when the casting was going out, it was looking like they wanted to cast him to basically play, sort of a stereotypical Islam terrorist. But what I actually really liked about some of Remy's statements is that when he got the job, he actually demanded that the character be changed, and that not be his character. To essentially, now we're going to take this from, to take him from basically being, like I said, a stereotypical, Islamic villain to now just being a good villain for Bond to face. Nico, as the quote-unquote non-Bond fan here, at least out of us three, the least well-versed, I should say, does this make you happy to hear that Rami wants to go against the norms and is trying to break stereotypes, or is this just a sort of a desperate ploy to make the film more interesting?
The way I look at it is Rami Malek is a guy who realizes we live in a world where people bitch about whether or not the live-action Ariel is white with red hair or not.
No.
And
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
But you see where I'm going with this. He's the guy who realizes this and doesn't want those same haters on the internet breathing down his neck Seeing a Middle Eastern villain that uses religion or ideology as a motive for their plot, and then he'll have that group of people that gets riled up about that sort of shit breathing down his neck for the next year and a half or so, because like they can't separate their own personal biases from a movie or an actor who's just playing a role. So I think he wanted this simply because he does not want to give the worst people of the world any additional ammo than they already have.
Fair point. Case?
Yeah, I think it's done for the sake of statements, because Bond has so many different types of villains. You have well, to be fair, you usually have a lot of henchmen. So you have your brute strength guy that Bond fights, and you have the villains who are smart, calculating, and that you have all kinds of villains.
Your Jawses and your Blofelds.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that Rami Malek is. I don't know what to think of this, really. I honestly don't. He thinks that these statements will probably make sure that it shuts trolls up on Twitter. I honestly don't care. I just want to see the movie. I just want to see what the hell he does in the movie and if it works for the movie. And if it works, yay. And if it doesn't work, well, maybe you should have tried something else then. But we'll have to wait and see for the movie. Yes, this is purely done for the sake of let's shut up some people on Twitter and Instagram and stuff because that's important these days.
You see, you're focused on what happens in the movie, whereas Rami Malek is more concerned about what happens outside of the movie.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I never give a crap about what happens outside of
But others do. Others do. And
because that's the issue with today's society. Because for some reason, what happens, like shit that happens in a movie, is so goddamn important that it needs to carry on into the real world. It's a goddamn movie. It's a goddamn fictional character. Don't get stuck up on it. Jesus.
And here's the thing. Both of you are right. Both of you are. Now, on the one hand, yeah, we don't need to give Twitter trolls more things to be stupid about. We just don't. And again, we'll get there in a moment as far as people just being
not
fucking
just Twitter
idiots.
Trolls, not just Twitter trolls, but actual people who will commit actual terrorism in the world. Because
you're right, but we also don't want to just simply keep stereotypes alive. We want to make sure that we can actually grow past that bullshit. And spoiler alert, guys, we're going to talk about that a little bit with Winston on the second half of the show. Look forward to it. It's a fun time. But on the other hand, it is just a movie. If you want to make the argument that all art is political, technically you're right. Because in some way, shape, or form, everybody who makes art has at least something political on their mind. Now, whether they show it consciously or unconsciously, it all depends on the interpretation of the viewer. Personally, as long as the film is not Quantum of Solace or the last half hour of Spectre, I'll be good. Because that's where my issue with Spectre lies. I'm sorry, Case.
No. The ending is probably the weakest of that movie. And I don't love Spectre. I like it a lot. I think it is a good movie, and I think it does get too much hate from some people. But I do understand it's not perfect, and it has some issues.
Yeah.
It's just that I piss everyone off the moment that I say I enjoy Spectre more than Skyfall. Then everyone loses their shit. And yes, it's true. I like Spectre more than Skyfall. Sue me. I still think Skyfall is a decent movie. That's just me.
And as long as you think that, I have no quarrel with you. I just respectfully disagree.
We can at least agree that Quantum of Solace sucks.
Yes, we can. Nico, care to join us in that? And I'm sorry I had to make you watch that recently. I'm sorry, Nico. Can you ever forgive me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here.
You've been forgiven for a while now.
Woohoo.
I can't help it I can't help it that one Bond movie sucked.
Unfortunately, there's about, I'd say 5 others that suck, but you'll get there one day. Hopefully. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the next story about something that we're actually looking forward to. That's fun. Knives Out. We meant to do a reaction, but we've just been busy this week. Kees, talk to me about Knives Out.
How great is this trailer? It looks like so much fun. Look, I haven't seen Clue, but does it look like Clue?
It's a more
In a way.
serious version of Clue.
Oh, I thought it was quite fun, actually.
Well,
But-
serious in tone.
Okay, yeah, fair. But still, it was a very fun trailer where, all these actors, big actors, really are really playing fun characters, and it seems like they're having fun, which is something that Rian Johnson can really do. I haven't seen a single bad movie of Rian Johnson, and that's because he works with actors so well. He gets great performances, great characters out of them, where he has a lot of fun with them. Especially like that moment where Chris Evans is like, eat shit, you eat shit, you definitely eat shit. It's just awesome.
Oh, that was beautiful.
And the fact that that's Captain America saying that, it's just great. Like, oh my god, I'm so
Kiss America's ass.
That's America's ass. Yeah, no, that was just awesome. But also Daniel Craig, he's playing a character that's it just seems like so much fun. I cannot wait for this movie. This trailer looked like a lot of fun. And yeah, as I said, I haven't seen a single bad Rian Johnson movie, so can't wait.
Yeah, same. Nico?
So I remember us talking about this movie a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Because we had a news report, and we brought it up for the news stuff. Yep, for that episode of this podcast. And you were trying to explain to me. I think we were trying to make comparisons as to like what movies this was going to be like, and what. And I think I compared it to Clue meets Death at a Funeral, and you were on board with that analogy, and we now see what it looks like in the form of a trailer. And yeah, and it looks fantastic, and I'm really excited for it. So prediction was correct, and now I look forward to seeing this movie. Could this win an Oscar?
Please.
Okay, first of all, get nominated for competitive awards, because that's something that Rian Johnson deserves.
Please.
Like directing, picture, screenwriting, acting. Please.
Well, it's probably gonna depend, at least for the screenwriting. It's gonna depend on the twist, because these types of movies, they usually always have some sort of twist.
As they're supposed to.
And if the twist is brilliant, then by all means nominate it.
Okay.
But if the twist is kind of lame, maybe go for a different award.
If it's up to the Twitter trolls, it definitely won't, because Rian Johnson can't write twists, and The Last Jedi was not at all what they expected, and it was terrible. Right?
But it wasn't what they were expected? Then it was a great twist.
Exactly. And that's what people don't realize. Oh my god, The Last Jedi was not what you expected, but it was still a great movie. You dipshit. Yeah.
And speaking of dipshits.
Oh boy, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn and grab your drinks. It's rant time! So, speaking of The Last Jedi and Disney and Twitter trolls and live action remakes of beloved Disney classics, The Little Mermaid has found its title character. And it comes in the form of young African-American actress/singer Halle Bailey. And look, I have nothing to say in regards to the casting, because you know what? I think as long as she can act, as long as she can sing, as long as she can do justice to the character and justice to Howard Ashman's lyrics, great. But Twitter, what the actual fuck is wrong with you fucking people? Like, okay, I love how everyone has to start off their arguments of, I'm not racist, but yes, you are. Oh, listen, I have lots of black friends. You're a fucking racist. Seriously, here's the problem. Everybody's attacking this casting purely because of the color of her skin. Ergo, you are fucking racist. It's as simple as that. Jesus! But of course, common sense and logic doesn't apply to Twitter, does it?
When did it ever?
Right? Kees, care to join me?
Honest to fucking God. I don't understand humanity at some points. And indeed, all the people saying that
Hashtag not my Ariel.
Like, I'm not racist. I have a lot of black friends. Shut the fuck up, you racist piece of motherfucking shit. You are. Because if you have an issue with the fact that a fictional character that was created for, fiction, that was just made up, and that the interpretation of that fictional character back in 1989 happened to be a white girl, doesn't mean that it has to be the same today. If they think that the best choice is to do something different in terms of the casting of, what was the name again?
Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey. If they feel that that would be the best Ariel today, yeah, just do it. Why not? What is wrong with it? Like, I that's the thing. I don't know her, so I have no idea if she has any singing, acting talent whatsoever. But I assume, like, it will still be made by Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assume they have kind of an idea how to cast kid actors or something. So I think they should know what they're doing. So every piece of shit on Twitter ranting about this, fuck you. There's no reason to get upset about it up until you say, look, if the movie turns out to be bad because of her, then you have an argument. Up until that point, shut the fuck up. That's really all I need to say about this, I think.
Nico, I know you've been holding this in. Please, the floor is yours. This ought to be great.
Okay, first off, this came on the same week that people were bitching about the U.S. women's soccer team celebrating too much after they pretty much shut out a team this week with, like, what, 11-0? They were like, stop celebrating so much after goal 6. And I'm like, please stop telling people how to do things. And essentially, I want to say the same thing to these people who are complaining about, how dare you cast someone that doesn't look like the cartoon for the live-action version. Now, the people who just simply don't want change, they can go fuck themselves. But I will say there is somewhat of a representation issue in regards to this casting, in that Ariel is a redhead, as we've seen in the cartoon, and it's kind of somewhat of a plot point in the novelization as well. Now, redheads, they kind of get marginalized at some points as well. I'm not going to lie there. And then there's also the stereotype of black people can't swim. And we talk about that with Winston later on in the next hour. So in a way I can see maybe the slightest argument of, we tried to make one group feel represented at the expense of another group. But then again, the simple solution is just give Halle Bailey red hair for the role, and then you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. Because Enfys Nest, anybody? A black ginger character? Something we almost rarely ever see on screen? So you can cater to both audiences and give both of those demographics the hope and representation that they want to feel on the big screen. But again, as for the people who are just like, oh, well, tune in for Black Panther 2 when it's a white person underneath the catsuit, just shut up. You don't have a legitimate argument. Like, if the look of the character isn't based around like ethnicity or heritage or culture, then it's okay to make some creative changes. This is one of those examples where it's okay to make a change. And again, maybe you can cater to both audiences with the suggestion I've just made. But for the record, I don't really consider Ariel to be that strong of a Disney princess anyway. Because what is her motivation compared to a lot of the other princesses? Look at Tiana. She was raised on the values of hard work, and she wants to see her dad's dream through of running her own restaurant. That's a good lesson to teach little girls. Elsa and Anna, they show you that be comfortable with who you are, even if you have a special gift that some people might not understand. What's the message with Ariel? If you want a guy, give up your voice.
Well, I mean, there's a little more to it than that, but
look. To be fair, with Ariel, she wants to be different than what she's raised to. She was raised as a mermaid, but she thinks that humans are interesting, and for some reason, her dad doesn't want her to do anything with that. The entire underwater people, everyone underwater thinks that under the sea it's the best, and not on land. Even though the humans might have a lot to offer, and that's something that they learn at the end of the movie. But yes, if you go back to the original Little Mermaid, or heck, any old Disney movie for that matter, why does the princess want the prince? Because they got the hots for each other, and there's no real other motivation. That's just how old Disney works, and that's also why I think they're kind of rebooting these movies, remaking or rebooting these movies, where they give it a modern take, where they make it more acceptable in today's society, where it might not have been like the original came out years ago, where society was different than it is now. So that's why they're remaking them. So maybe with Ariel, they'll also give more depth to the character. Besides, she's got the hots for him.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Well, and there actually is there is a little bit of merit to some of the older princesses, like Cinderella, where sure, she just got a prince at a ball and had to leave the ball at midnight. But lest we all forget, she was worked to the bone every single day of her life. So that was just good karma coming her way from all the shit she had to endure. Or,
like that the lesson there is good things will come to people who deserve it.
Yeah. It's just that, in 2019 we think we're above that simple message.
Yeah. Also, you need to realize that most of the older Disney movies aren't over an hour and 20 minutes long. And today, movies can't really get done with unless it's at least an hour 40.
I was going to say.
Movies have gotten longer.
Yeah, in a strange way, like, sure, we have a shorter attention span, but our movies have gotten longer. Someone explain me how that works. But, what are you going to do? But yeah, now with that, we're going to take it over to the second half of the show. Right after this, don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the second half of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we are actually pre-taping this because, you know what, sometimes schedules happen, life happens. I hope the lighting in my room doesn't give away too much that, you know, this is too much earlier in the day. But, of course, as we said, I'll be saying quite a bit this week, we are very happy and very honored to be joined by, honestly, just one of the coolest people, you know, in this entire community of, you know, actors in Hollywood and Schmoedown people. Please, ladies and gentlemen, he is an actor and a director here to promote his new show, Sydney to the Max, but also you know him from the Schmoedown as Blackman, Winston Marshall. Winston, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm fighting this post-July 4th hangover. That's really what's going on right now.
You know what? I could respect that. Finding patriotism in unpatriotic times. I really respect that.
For anybody that follows me on Instagram, there's this really funny story where someone took a video of me shotgunning a beer, and you could tell that I was already drunk when I reposted it because I was like, because I didn't finish. I got about 3/4 of the way through and was like, nah, I ate too much, y'all. I can't finish this. But I wrote on the thing, yeah, I couldn't finish. I just eat too much right now. And I was like, are you that fucking dumb and drunk that your ass can't even spell 8? Like, what the fuck is your problem? So, you know, it happens, man. But it was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Kees, I think next time you and I are in LA, we have to go drinking with Winston. That sounds like a good time.
Oh, yes.
Let me know, y'all. Shit.
I'm going to end up having to drive you guys back to the hotel, aren't I?
Yes,
probably.
Thank you.
I'm calling Uber. Screw that.
This is how you drink responsibly.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Oh my God, I couldn't have asked for a perfect introduction there. That was beautiful. But you know, as we mentioned, so you're here tonight because you actually have you actually are now a full-time cast member on the newest Disney Channel original series, Sydney to the Max. And you know, first off, for the audience who, you know, maybe they have Disney Channel, but you know, maybe they're a little hesitant to check it out because, you know, we're like, oh, Disney Channel original series, it doesn't really sound like my bag anymore. Would you mind just giving like the sort of elevator pitch of what the show's about and your role in it?
Sure. So the show follows Sydney Reynolds and Max Reynolds. Sydney is like 12, 13, something like that. And she's just kind of going through the standard misadventures of life. So like her best friend, for example, becomes treasurer. They lose the money from the car wash, so that they come up with some scam to try and, you know, make up the money. Stuff like that. Random childhood misadventures. But her dad, Max, is a single dad. He's in like his early 40s. And so what ends up happening is every time Sydney does something, there's a flashback to the 90s of when Max was her age doing a kind of a similar, like, so for example, he had, you know, won some money at an arcade prize, but it was supposed to go to charity. So then like he lost it, and like, you know what I'm saying? So they do like a juxtaposition of Max as a kid versus his kid now. I realize it's not an elevator pitch because I'm taking like 5 hours to describe this. But long story short, in the 90s, Max's best friend Leo is who he has all of his adventures with. So I'm not a full reoccurring character yet at this point. It was a guest star, but I play the adult version of Leo in the present day. So there's already a lot of setup for me to be coming back in like the second season and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited to see what ends up happening. Yeah.
Awesome. And you know, I'm actually kind of curious because, like, obviously, I haven't gotten to hang out with a lot of the people in the Schmoedown community who are actors and whatnot, but I've never really talked to anybody about getting in with, you know, with one of the big conglomerates like a Disney or a Nickelodeon or something. So
Yeah.
You know, talk to me about the process of, you know, going through those auditions and becoming a member of the Disney family. Like, talk me through that a little bit, if you could.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because earlier before that, I did a Nickelodeon movie called Big Sur High Private Eye. So it was very funny that like I inadvertently, when I was on the Nickelodeon set, I have this Powerline T-shirt that I love, and I accidentally wore that onto the set of Nickelodeon. They're like, "Yeah, you for real right now?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, my bad." And then did the exact same thing on City to the Max. I have a Reptar shirt that I wear all the time, it's like my Reptar shirt. So of course I walk onto the set of City to the Max, and I'm like, "Really, dude?" And I was like, "I did it fucking again? Are you serious?" But in both cases, it's just the standard like audition grind type scenario where, ironically for Sydney to the Max, I was on my way to work and I get a phone call like 9:30 in the morning being like, I have an emergency like audition casting going on. I need you to get over to. And at the time, I was working for my manager. She has a film studio, so I was helping co-run that. And so I unfortunately I auditioned for another thing that had me out for 2 days that week already. So this is the third day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but this audition." She's like, "Go, whatever." I went there. The audition went well. They asked me to stay. I went for a second time, and then by the time that I left, I unfortunately got a phone call that I got laid off because they're like, "You're gone way too much this week, and it's getting worse and worse. So like, we need someone else to take this over." Which blew, but then I found out at like 11 o'clock that night that I booked the role. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, this is like kind of like a happy problems type scenario, you know what I mean? Like I'll kind of figure out how to transition one way or the other. But really the only process is just literally the audition process. That's literally, there's nothing super extra. There are people that I know because of family or anything else like that. They might get their foot in the door for an audition. But generally speaking, they'll reach out to agencies. The agencies will submit who they, think fits whatever they need. And then if you kill it, you kill it. And I got lucky because I think for this role in particular, they essentially, even though they gave me like a big sizable scene, like the big fight scene that happens in the episode, they let me do that just on my own as whatever. But most of the audition process was imitating the little kid. Because again, he's a series regular. They show him every single episode. So they were like, here's a couple clips of what we've already shot with him. How well can you imitate this kid? And so I literally just spent most of that audition just like picking up all of his mannerisms, learning some of like the random dance moves he does, like things like that, like the way his speech pattern, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pretty fun though. It was a fun challenge to just straight up imitate somebody like right up out the gate.
That's really okay, legit. Like that's actually fascinating because like whenever I'm watching a show where I clearly am seeing, flashbacks of like one actor to another actor, but usually it's more in the present full time, and then, we'll occasionally see that kid in the past, but it sounds like here we kind of sort of the reverse effect. But
right.
And then did you have chemistry tests with your younger version or?
Not with younger me, only with older Max. So Ian,
okay.
I always mess up Ian's last name. Ian Kessler. He plays adult Max, and so they brought him in for the second part of the audition for the big fight scene, just to see again how our chemistry was. So like if the friendship part was there, but if we would also could like have that argument, et cetera, et cetera. And the showrunner came in too. I didn't realize it was the showrunner at the time, but I was just like, oh, it's a random producer. Okay, whatever. And then when I got on set and I was like, oh, you the big, oh fuck. I'm glad I didn't say anything fucking stupid while I was in there because I did not realize that that's who was watching me the whole time. So, but yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to meet Christian until I actually got on set because obviously since he's in the past, I never do any scenes with him. But I did like during our lunch breaks and stuff like that. Like I played basketball with him, and we would just like sit and chat about stuff and whatnot. All the kids on that show, they're absolutely amazing. They're super fucking professional, very very nice. So yeah, no, they're awesome for sure. That whole cast is.
That's awesome. And you've been putting in the hustle and the grind for. I believe some of your earliest credits that I've come across from like at the end of last decade, now into this decade. Like, what was it about acting that really got you hooked? That made you want to be like, ooh, this could be a lot of fun. Is it just Is it just the character building for yourself, or is there more to that?
Well, for me, I've been acting since I was a kid. I was on Radio Disney from like 5th grade until I graduated high school, which is funny because I talked about that with like with some of the producers on set after the fact. They're like, "That's wild. We had absolutely no idea," just because I never got like any like crazy credits, or it's not like logged anywhere. But if you go to like Radio Disney, like I'm up there and like one of the original pictures with the other Radio Disney kids and stuff, which is cool. But if they still have it, I know they moved offices. I don't know if they pulled it down. But anyway, I've just known since I was a kid, like, when people were like, "Oh, I want to be a fireman. I want to be an astronaut." I was just like, "No, I want to do that. Like, I want to be in movies. Like, I want to be a Ninja Turtle. Like, I want to be a Power Ranger. Like, I want to be Batman." Like, a lot of it based in nerdy shit. But like, I was always imitating people's voices and stuff like that. Like, I was always just playing pretend. And like, the minute I knew that was something you genuinely could do, like, I always had my heart set on doing it. It's just a matter of getting into a position to actually do that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And I'm sure you can attest to this, that, let's face facts, people are still shitheads all across the world, and definitely across the industry. And you know what, I actually want to be, I actually want to get this out of you if you could. Like, would you feel comfortable talking about a time where you did face some of that adversity, some of that shittiness?
Sure. Are you talking specifically like dealing with like bigotry or racism, or just dealing with like assholes, or okay? So
well, or all the above, frankly, because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, you see stuff on the general basis all the time. I don't look at breakdowns as much anymore, just because I let my reps handle it. Just because most of the stuff that I would personally find, because there are websites that actors can sign up for to submit to stuff. Most of that is going to be on like a semi-professional or an amateur level. So you don't get paid nearly as much. It's obviously not stuff you're going to see on Netflix or anything else like that. So a lot of those breakdowns that you would see would say stuff like, like, I remember there was a lot of controversy about Straight Outta Compton, because they did a breakdown for women where it was A through E, and it was like A, super hot, like supermodel, like light-skinned black girls, like Latinas, white women, et cetera, et cetera. Then like B was like, maybe like a hot body, but not as pretty of a face, still light-skinned, like whatever. Then it was like C, like average-looking women, not attractive, like might have titties, might have ass, et cetera. Then D, like ugly women that like only are like whatever, dark-skinned women, et cetera. And then like E, like bottom-of-barrel dogs, will probably make fun of them in the movie about how ugly they are, all sorts of like, that's types of shit that will be put out there. And I've been in casting sessions before where I'll do a role and they're like, "Yeah, can you do that like more urban, more thug? Like you don't seem like a real black right now. Like you'll get shit like that. That's like very like dismissive, and you kind of have to just there's a 50-50 split of like you kind of have to suck it up, but then also like in certain instances where you don't necessarily put it up with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not at that point yet where like I have enough clout that I can just throw the middle finger to stuff, but I am enough where my reps know if it's something that is going to be offensive, they know that I won't even go in for the audition for it, so I don't have to deal with the bullshit, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just like I keep having to ask myself, especially with some of the nonsense I'm seeing, especially here. I know that I went on this in the first half about the whole Ariel and the cast choice. It's like, okay, listen, I care about two things with that. Two things. One, can she sing? And two, can she bring justice to Howard Ashman's lyrics? If that's what she can do, by all means, great. But there's this ridiculousness, sheer ridiculousness of people, and as I said earlier in my lovely little rant, hashtag racist Twitter. People, give it a chance. Can we at least see some footage? Can we hear her do the work? Can we see what the filmmakers are trying to do with it first before we make any judgments? But no, that's too much to ask, isn't it?
Well, and you know what's wild about that to me? Because I was actually, I'm sure y'all are familiar with Jay Washington. And so he and I do a lot of, we do reviews and like all sorts of stuff together. And we were just talking about how fucking absurd it is in the sense that, first of all, Ariel is a fictional made up motherfucking character that lives under the ocean. All right. Like, there's no historical reference that Ariel specifically was a redheaded white girl. Now, the red hair they do make reference to throughout the movie. And if anybody has seen any of the photos of Haley Bailey, she has had red hair before and she looks gorgeous. So that we can easily fucking fix. That's not a big deal.
It's called hair dye.
But again, this is exactly. Thank you. But there is literally nothing that says specifically that she has to be of any particular ethnicity. She's a goddamn fictional character. So, like, again, like you said, if she's got pipes, which she does, if anybody wants, I'll leave a laundry list of videos of her singing where she fucking kills it. She will more than do justice to it. And she's a wonderful actress, too. She's on the show Grownish, and she fucking kills it on there with her sister, Chloe. And they're both amazing actors. So I'm not even worried about that either. So, like, to me, that's the kind of stuff that, like, that's where I, like you said, hashtag racist Twitter. That's exactly where this is purely a racism issue, where it's like, again, it's not like they're like, oh, we cast her as Queen Victoria of England, you know, set back in the day, and so we're trying to go for an accurate representation. That's one thing. I'm not going to argue with people if you do a colonial piece and it's all white people, because most likely it was mainly only white people. But, like, in a situation like this where it doesn't matter, that's really fucking stupid to me.
Well, I mean, plus, you know, like, the fact people are coming at this so hard, when you gotta realize, Disney's other biggest moneymaker, Frozen, which is based off of the Snow Queen. Oh wait, doesn't that take place with a dark-skinned lead? But then again, to be fair, the original story was set more in Africa, and then they changed the location to a Norway, Sweden.
It's Swedish,
right?
Swedish,
yeah.
Right, but. Well, and there you go. And the point of that is, again, you've put that setting, you've changed the setting entirely, so that's fine.
And that's where the difference is. But here, it just makes no sense why people are just getting so off the handle about it. It makes no sense.
Well, the funniest thing to me is there was the argument of, like, as a redheaded white girl, like, this is the one thing that, like, made me feel like I was like, okay, but you did mention the fact about being white in the sense that you have had Disney princesses for years that look like you one way or the other.
There's one called Snow White. There's one called Snow White.
Thank you, bro. So, like you've literally had that for 70 years. And the first time we got a black princess, you're talking about Tiana back in Princess and the Frog.
Yep.
And it took 70 years to get to that point. So what harm is it for a little black girl to actually see herself in what is supposed to be, like, the major thing that little girls look up to? It's these strong princesses that are, like, doing their thing. Like, I think that whole argument is fucking stupid. But
and also, isn't there, like, some ridiculous old stereotype that black people can't swim? Well, here you go. Now you got a lead that can take that stereotype out.
Hey, man, that is true. But, you know, there was a black girl in the last Olympics who, like, won a bunch of gold medals. I can't remember her name. That's why we're at a computer. I can look it up. Hold on, let's see.
She was a gymnast. I remember who you're referring to.
Actually, this past week I've been watching Wimbledon, and a 15-year-old black girl from the U.S. Is doing really well. She's kicking ass.
Yeah,
so
she took down Serena Williams.
Venus.
Oh, sorry,
she took on Venus. She took on Venus. Yeah.
You're right.
And her name is Simone Manuel. She won two gold and 2 silver in the 2016 Rio Olympics. So yeah, like, I mean, I'm glad to see that stereotype die, because, you know, I used to play water polo, so that's like a whole thing that everybody's like, you used to what? Like, that shit don't make no sense.
Dude, tell.
Yeah, it was only during middle school, but I went to a private school. So like 7th and 8th grade, man, I was a water polo goalie. So they'd make us swim laps till we threw up, and I just had to get used to that and like treading water for like a good hour. So you throw that stereotype right out the motherfucking window.
No, that's actually really fucking awesome. Well, 'cause to be honest, like I've never even seen water polo done in my life, but I would love to see it like once. I feel like that would be a fun event.
No, it's fun, man. It's literally soccer in the water. It's soccer / handball in the water. So it's a lot of fun, and it's what people don't realize is like actually how violent it is. You can't necessarily see it watching it from the surface, but underneath, you're supposed to have all your nails cut and stuff like that. People will keep like one sharp nail and they'll like stab each other under the water to try and get you to drop the ball and stuff like that. People will be like punching each other if they can get like an arm underneath, because you really are scrapping for the ball. But again, if a ref sees any of that, you'll get carded for that shit and all that, whatever. But people are fucking each other up under the water while it's happening, under the sea, if you will.
Good
Hated
reference.
myself. Yeah, that one.
Wow.
Oh, God. Oh, that's okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's your fun fact for the day, courtesy of one Winston Marshall. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So going back to going back to your acting and whatnot.
Mm.
Is there like a sort of dream project you've always envisioned for yourself that you would love to be a part of?
Static Shock. Simple, quick answer.
You know what? You know what? No, actually, with the hair, I see it. With the hair and the facial hair, I 100% see it.
I gotta drop some weight, and I'm working on that. But like, I love that they've re-envisioned him for Young Justice and everything like that. There's a rumor that he may show up in Black Lightning, but I know the show itself has been kind of like, while it's like high quality, it hasn't necessarily hit the ratings they were hoping for. So I know they have a 3rd season, but they may deviate from that just because, who knows. But also, I'm not up for that right now. But that's always been like kind of a dream. I've always wanted to play a superhero, and that was like the Saturday morning cartoon, apart from like X-Men animated series, that like was my shit. Like, I was just like, I'm out here trying to skateboard on a fucking sewer grate with electricity powers and fuck people up. That sounds amazing.
Yep, I want to see that now. That would just be awesome. And with that, like, of course you're always putting in the hustle, putting in the grind and whatnot. But are there any connections that that you're trying? Are there any friendships that you're trying to start where there's a possibility that could happen for you? I'm just wondering.
Sister, she's a writer on the show Charmed, and so the big thing that we're kind of working on right now is like we've kind of kicked a couple ideas around. So we're gonna do some sketches this summer while we have some free time before things get crazy in the fall. But we've got some potential projects in the future that we hope to like work together on. Like we were talking about co-writing a pilot together, potentially trying to pitch that, stuff like that. But the funny thing is that kid, she's on another level. She's like a prodigy, man. So she's in that writer's room all day, every day. And even on the weekends, I can only see her to like bring her dinner or something like that, 'cause she's constantly having to do stuff. But that's my other dream project, is to really get a chance to truly work with my sister and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, and again, we always need fresh perspectives, I'd say, in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry. And you know what? Hey, the more the merrier.
Hey, man, appreciate that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about just adding the right spices for a new little treat, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And speaking of perspectives, if we can get back to the show you're plugging here today, Sydney to the Max. I watched the pilot before we started taping this, and one of the things I find interesting is that, right now we're kind of in an age of reboot culture and spin-off culture, and so you look at certain shows that existed a long time ago, like Boy Meets World, and then a few years in the past they had Girl Meets World as a spinoff. You actually have a cast member from that show on your show. Ava Kolker. She played Ava Morgan Stern on Girl Meets World, and she plays Olive here on Sydney to the Max. So I'm very happy she got to work because I think she's got a bright future ahead of her. But what I like about what I saw in the pilot for Sydney to the Max is that it's kind of taken a show that you have seen in the past and the spin-off of it, it's put it all together. It's made it a wraparound sort of thing of telling those perspectives of, okay, here's the dumb stuff I did a long time ago, and now my kid is sort of repeating that dumb stuff that I did.
Yeah.
And it's all about – and also you also have Carolyn Rhea, Aunt Hilda from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She plays the grandma on the show, and it's kind of cool to see how her perspective has changed, because she was the stern single parent that Max is now, and now that she's a grandma, she's trying to find her youth again in her own unique way. So it's interesting to see those perspectives of, I was this way, but now that I'm older, I'm trying to find my youth again. I used to be a young, rebellious type, and now I'm trying to be the responsible guy. And now with Sydney, she's trying to find her own place in the world and making her own mistakes. And it's cool to see those perspectives told. And I'm very curious, because as I get further on in the season, I'm assuming I'll see more of you as opposed to just Child Leo, who I saw in the pilot. I'm very curious to see how you and Child Leo parallel and contrast with each other.
Yeah, so just again, just to clarify, because I was in episode 14, As Bad as She Gets. So it was currently a 1-episode guest star, but again, playing the adult version of Leo. They've already told me that they have plans for me to reappear in season 2 and stuff like that. So we will see if that comes to fruition. We're all going to cross our fingers. Everybody that's watching this, go watch it. Because if you do, that is more impetus for them to be like, we have to get this motherfucker back. Go on every Disney Twitter, everything, and be like, we need adult Leo. The motherfucker's hilarious. That's the motherfucking man. You do that shit, then they probably would just be like, fuck it. Just give him a check. Put him in every episode. That's the goal. All right.
Yes.
But yes, I completely agree. I think what I love about it, I'm a big chief component. I don't necessarily like a lot of reboots. I think there are exceptions to the rule. I do like to see, I liked when they redid X-Men. I thought First Class and Days of Future Past are great. I hate that it fizzled out with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, but obviously they got bought up by Marvel again. So we will get more X-Men at some point, and I'm okay with that reboot because you're bringing it into a larger world. You know what I mean? Other than that, I really prefer original ideas. So I do kind of you're exactly right. I like the idea that it's almost making fun of the fact that it's a reboot inside of a show, in the sense that it's you're right. Max does something as a kid, and then Sydney does the same thing. So it's almost like you're getting the exact same kind of pattern of back and forth. I do think that was a very unique twist that they're doing. And I give, honestly, Disney and Nickelodeon a lot of credit. Unlike any other network, because they're kids networks, they do their research. They know what kids like. They put together really solid ideas and show types, and they really put all of their energy into it. And when I got there, honestly, it was a very well-greased machine. The types of jokes that are told, the costume design, the set design, etc. And they really took something brand new and made it. They just went with it. It was absolutely great.
Awesome. Now, I just have a quick side note here. Winston Marshall for Bishop. Make it happen.
I'm down for that too. Let's go, man. I'll put a big ass M on my face. That's my last name anyway. I'll just tell everybody it's for Marshall. It'll be fine.
Exactly. But speaking of how well oiled of a machine, Nickelodeon and Disney are, I'm just curious. When it comes to the sense of humor that they're only allowed to have because the shows are meant for younger audiences. So if they do sneak a joke in that is more for the adults, but in more of that Animaniacs super subtle kind of way, do you guys look what is that process of that sort of sense of humor that you're supposed to have on these kind of shows? Does it bother you at all? Or?
No, I appreciate that, because I think that's the point that a lot of people forget. I mean, the more appropriate thing to do is to make shows that kids can watch with their parents or their caretakers, because honestly, the last thing you want is for a child to be running around just watching whatever. You want not only a bonding experience, but want to make sure a kid is watching something that is like appropriate for their age and whatnot. So I think it's cool that they do put little subtle jokes that only parents get, because then that lets the parents engage with the content as well, if that makes sense. You don't want it so overt and so sexual that then you have to explain, Daddy, what's a blowjob? Like, you don't want that shit. But one of my favorite moments was in Toy Story 2 when Jessie finally comes back to Andy's room and like she lets the dog out and like Buzz's wings just like pop out all of a sudden, like with this stunned look on his face. That's like, obviously a metaphor for him getting, a little Woody, if that makes sense. Like I love little moments like that, because as a kid you don't know what they're referring to. You just think it's funny because you're like, whoa, why is Buzz so like his wings popped out automatically? That's hilarious. But every parent was like, oh shit, I know what the fuck that was. So like, it's a nice little thing. And I'm trying to think if anything in the episode was like that. I don't think that there was anything super crazy like that at all. But it does. I've seen it pop up in scripts before. I mean, it popped up even when I was doing Bixler High. Like they kind of let me improvise for a while. And so like I did say some stuff which they laughed at. It ultimately got cut probably because it's a kid's thing and it was maybe not subtle as it should have been. But like yeah, so it just depends. But I agree with that. I think you do need to kind of like, if you're doing a kid show, you got to layer something in, because kid shows are not just for kids technically.
And you got to think, kids these days are exposed to a lot of mature things in their lives that you kind of want these shows to be a break from all that maturity in a way. And when they do put in the mature stuff, it relates more to teaching them a life lesson than just making a joke about sexuality or obscure things that I can't really think of an analogy for, but you get where I'm going with this.
Like putting Trump in a diaper.
How would I best put this? It's essentially kind of the same way that when we were growing up, and I mean, even kids now, you look to like video games to kind of decompress from the world and kind of be pulled away from it. You do want to, in that same breath, like I don't have a problem with like if it's a deeper storyline, it's like it's an allegory for like whatever, and for the election or whatever the hell else. But for the most part, you do want it to be kind of separate, so you can just kind of have your whatever. You don't have to stress out about other stuff. I think it's the same thing that you're right. Kids are constantly being bombarded with stuff all over the place now, especially because of social media and, the fact that you do have the current president deciding to tweet every depraved thought that comes through his mind. Like, you want kids to be able to just be kids for a little bit. So I do appreciate them doing that,
Fair enough. We're gonna start to slow us down. Ted, before we do, we all came to know you through your appearances on Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and I actually just want to start off with, how did you come across it? Like, how did you come across Christian and Mark's little show that we all love?
Yeah, I was a friend of mine, Cheyenne, and she's a YouTube influencer, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see this taping of this thing called the Schmoedown. If you want to come through." And I was like, "Sure, whatever, I'll roll through." And I was in the audience, and I was like, "Oh, this is a lot of fun. Like, I really like this." So after the fact, Christian happened to be there, and Christian and Mark actually, and I just mentioned offhand, I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. Like, whatever, it takes to really kind of get involved in this, like, I would enjoy doing that. Like, yeah, we exchanged contact information, and I think what ultimately did it is it sounds like they went and did a little research on me, because then Christian was like, oh, we'd absolutely love to have you like on the show and like try and compete. And originally I told him I wanted to do Inner Geekdom, because I knew that I had a much deeper breadth of knowledge despite my most recent Inner Geekdom match a couple months ago. That's where
everyone has an off day.
Well, right. That was also that we taped the Black Movie Trivia Schmoedown the same day that we taped that Inner Geekdom match. So it literally came down to, I can't study for both, so I have to pick which one I'm gonna like really put my energy into. And ultimately, since I had been talking so much shit about the Black Movie Trivia Schmoedown to Jay, I was like, that's where I'm going to put my energy. And obviously, things played out how they did. But anyway, Christian initially thought I had said I wanted to do teams. He's like, cool, so just have a partner and we'll see you out there. And I was like, wait, what? Oh, fuck. So I just thought to myself, I was like, who do I know that knows and loves movies? And then I remember, like, I hadn't talked to Eric Zipper in a long time. It had been at least a year or two. But he's one of my best friends from college. And so I was just like, hey, man, I'm about to do this thing. It's pretty dope. It's on the internet. Like, would you be down to do it? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And then Christian was like, do you have a name? And I literally just happened to be wearing my Batman shirt, and he was in a Superman one when we were hanging out together. And I was like, fuck it, we're the world's finest. Like, that makes sense. Like, we're just going to do that. And so that's literally how it was born, was just completely out of just random whatever. But, Eric, has become like a superstar, just like doing his thing. Like, he really has a deep breadth of knowledge. I definitely have the stuff. I know what I know. And so the stuff that I do, I do. But yeah, that was pretty much it, man. It was a decent amount of just like luck and knowing people that I even got in the room in the first place. And then the fact that, Christian and Mark, there was something that they saw there that they wanted to include me. So, I'm always grateful for that, for sure.
Fair enough. Kees, I'm just curious, as the host of our Schmoedown reactions here on the channel, did you have anything you particularly wanted to ask Winston?
Well, what I'm just wondering is, as you already said, you had some bad luck with your Inner Geekdom match, and you've also had some bad luck with your team, because now you and Zipper split up because of what Zipper did.
Traitor.
So what I'm just wondering is, what is next for you? Are you going to continue with another teammate? Are you going to continue in Inner Geekdom? I'm just wondering what's next.
Yeah. Christian and I had like a good talk, and that I am going to be more involved because at the last couple of months I've kind of taken a backseat just because I've had a lot of like personal and career stuff, like obviously going well, but like going on. So the scheduling was kind of hard, and obviously there's a lot of big marquee matches that he was really pushing for, like live shows and stuff like that. But yeah, going forward, we're going to get more Inner Geekdom. There's talks about me with a new partner. We haven't decided yet. But on the low, keep this between me and all of your viewers, so I guess everybody, that the ultimate goal actually is for me to start being behind the desk and start doing that.
Nice.
That would be nice.
So it's not, it's not even necessarily like a part of me being completely out of competing, but from the standpoint of probably my biggest strength on there, obviously, is just acting like an idiot. So, kind of taking those talents to messing with the competitors, if you will, while also giving them questions. So,
well, I was going to say,
so
you do have one of the best personalities in the Schmoedown, like, period. We love how funny you are here. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
I have to ask, if I may. So, in yesterday's match that dropped, we saw that Critically Acclaimed had been split up, which is it's still taking a toll on my two partners here. Too
soon, man.
But and we saw a couple months ago that you and Zipper split up. Now we understand storyline-wise why that occurred, because Zipper corruption had gotten in his ear, and it forced him to make some weird decisions, including taking his shirt off and throwing it on the ground. And it eventually led to him joining the dungeon in an effort to get better and get revenge on corruption. But what was more the behind-the-scenes reason for that split-up? Did it have to do with the fact that you had just gotten signed to do Sydney to the Max and other career stuff and other personal stuff? Or was it just Christian being like, I want to try something different, and that was it?
It was the scheduling thing would have definitely made things a little bit harder. Like, that wasn't the first conversation that happened, because as that was kind of coming up down the pipeline, Christian had already been, coming to me about, like, I do want to get you more involved with, like, stuff here, potentially on just like random stuff on Collider, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, great, as my schedule permits, I'm 100% down. But I knew I was going to get busier. But it really came down to the fact that they really wanted to hype up the storyline of just fucking with Eric. And so it literally came down to that very last question where, like, if we had won, we would have kept pushing until we had like a colossal failure, and then they would have eventually looked to find a way to get Eric to, like, for me and him to split ways. But it literally came down to them. I'm trying to remember what that last question was too, because it was their 5-pointer. It was.
Oh.
God, let me think about it. Let me think. I think it was like it was a movie. It's gonna drive me crazy. I can look that up pretty fast. Hold on, half a second. That is not so YouTube. Look at that. I'm not even drunk anymore, and I still can't spell. It's ridiculous. This is corruption. There we go. So that last question was.
By the way, as you're getting over the hangover, are you spelling corruption the exact way it's actually spelled, or are you
like idiots? Yes, no, I spelled it right. That's all good. I remember in the 2010 remake of the 80s classic had the tagline, "A challenge he never imagined, a teacher he never expected." So it was the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And that's, I remember, because being on set, you could very easily tell that Mike really didn't have it, and Chance was kicking it back and forth in his head. And so they were kind of acting like they had it the whole time. But I could hear Chance whispering, and so he had a couple different ones bouncing around in his mind, and he ultimately just was like, all right, this is the one I think that makes the most sense. So I was just like, I immediately knew the answer, and I was like, fuck, man, come on, don't, fuck! So, but I did appreciate it happening the way that it did, just from the standpoint of, you know, the biggest thing that I saw in a lot of the comments was people being like, yo, that was like a really touching ass, sad ass motherfucking moment. Like, I wasn't like a lot of people were like, on the one hand, I do kind of want to see Zipper, like, you know, take off and fly, but at the same breath, I was like, yo, fuck, man, like, wait a minute. Like, even Christian came over to me afterwards and was like, I didn't mean for you to act that good. Shit, like, you went like all in on that. It's mainly from the standpoint of just that. Like I said, he's my actual best friend, so I just kind of channeled the fact, or like one of my best friends, so I just channeled the fact that, like, what would really happen if he left me for some petty bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, if we're to truly ended over that. So it was, yeah. I know that's a little off base from what you actually asked me, but to answer your question, yeah, that was mainly it. Is that Christian? He is kind of a brilliant mastermind as far as like figuring out where he wants stuff to go. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's what you always get. Like, he always figures out two scenarios. What if Team A wins? What if Team B wins? If, like, I assume they have that for every single match. Whatever the outcome, they know how to continue forward to set up storylines so they can already in advance hype stuff up. And regardless of, like, especially when they had the announcement for, like, San Diego Comic-Con, like, Rachel will play someone. We don't know who, but we can already announce Rachel. So, and at that point, you can start some kind of a feud. If Kalinowski wins again, it will once again be Kalinowski versus Cushing, which of course happened, as we know now. But what if Smets had won? Stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, it's just cool to see how they plan for that.
Well, and that's the thing. You, like, Christian's mind is on like a whole different level with this, where he genuinely has a fully mapped out every different scenario, period. And he runs it by everybody. It's still his baby, so he obviously has final say, but he runs it by everybody and like who's available. Like, he even has contingency plans for scheduling and things like that, where it's like, okay, we can't make this happen because XYZ isn't around for blah, 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 blah. So he comes up with backup plans on backup plans. And obviously you can see how much the league continues to grow. Like, he's doing something right, like very right, you know? So
definitely.
You know, and one quick side note, one of my biggest damn it moment was when you guys took on Trek as World's Finest, and that was one of your big wins. Because, like, yes, I was a big Team Trek fan because Jason Amos, Scott Lance, such beautiful personalities.
I might have to go back and watch your. I saw y'all's reaction to our breakup, but I might have to go back and watch your reaction to Trek because it sounds like you had a traumatic experience about this.
Actually, unfortunately, I never shot a reaction for that match.
We don't have that reaction.
Sadly,
Oh,
but but I will say that that was just one of my favorite matches because I was so surprised with both you and Eric on that particular game. Like, you both were on fire for that one. And they brought pretty good A game too. And but as I'm hearing that last question, I'm like, other than Heath Ledger for the Joker, name one other actor nominated for a comic book character. I'm like, okay, come on. Al Pacino and Dick Tracy. Just say Al Pacino and Dick Tracy. And they don't say Al Pacino and Dick Tracy. And I'm like, guys, this is why you lost. Jason, you're a comic guy. You should know this.
Right.
But
I also have to ask then, because Chris just said that was one of your best performances, and you and Zipper had a great performance against Corruption as well, and you had a great performance against Jay in the Black movie trivia match as well. But then there have also been things like the Inner Geekdom match, things like when you teamed with Stacey Howard in the first match of the Anarchy tournament, where things it kind of didn't go the way you had hoped at all. Is there something in your training that you're working on to have more consistent performances like the ones you've had against the bigger name teams? And if so, can you give us a little info?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is I think you don't know what you don't know. And so, to be honest with you, it's one of those things that there's a decent amount of movie knowledge that I'm aware of, but there's plenty of stuff that either movies that I would have never paid attention to, because the biggest thing I feel like most people, when they go to the movies, they are looking for something that interests them. So you're specifically like, oh, cool, I love comic book movies. I'm going to watch every single one of those. Like, like my sister's a writer. She knows every single writer backwards, forwards, et cetera, because that's literally what she does for a living. So there's certain things you look for. Like, obviously I'm Black, so like, I've seen like 80 or 90% of every Black movie that's really come out. You know what I'm saying? So there's just certain things that you watch, and it's not until you're in a position where it's like, cool, name, these Oscar directors, that all of a sudden you go, oh, fuck, I never cared about that before. Now that if I'm in a position where now I need to do that for like a competition, that's something that I need to pay more attention to. So a lot of the things that I'm doing, like I posted on Instagram a while ago, I can't really pull it off the wall, but like I have like there's like 100 movies bucket list, and like you scratch off like a little gray box every time, and then it has like a minimalist. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah, I actually have one of those too.
Yeah. So like that's. Let me see if I can get it. Hold on.
Go for it.
Yeah. Do we have some kind of? Oh, never mind.
So like stuff like this where like you just like go in and scratch them off and stuff like that. So like there is, what is that? That's what Batman is, the Dark Knight, I think.
Yep.
So like you go in and you scratch stuff off. And I've seen the only reason I did, by the way, before people freak out, the only reason I didn't scratch off Shawshank is I've seen it twice when I was in college. But like for me, the way I'm treating this, if I can't answer like all of the important questions of like the director, the actors, and like major points, I don't count it as having seen it, because I may have just been like casually watching it. So I'm using this as like a study tool to be able to like know what I do and don't. I had also posted something that when my mom heard that I was doing this, she actually bought me like a card trivia game for specific movies that is like, oh, who's the director of this? Like, who's the lead in that, et cetera, et cetera. So there's random things throughout the day, but then also I watch movies differently now. So whenever I go to see a movie, I'll take a small notepad with me, and I'll just, for repetition, I'll just write down the 5 lead actors, the director, and like the year it came out, even if it's like it came out right now, and Spider-Man Far From Home came out 2 days ago. So I would write down, July 2019, Holland, Samuel L. Jackson, Zendaya, et cetera, just so I am like, it's at least kicking around in my brain. It's not just like some background noise that I've heard. I've at least on the surface absorbed it in, so then I can, if I need to recall it later, I can. So that's how I'm treating it nowadays, so that I at least am putting my best foot forward, and yeah.
All right, move over, Kevin Smets. There's a new study master in town, and his name's Winston Marshall. No, I only say that just because when we had Kevin on the show, he gave us a pretty detailed breakdown of his little study tools, and it's like, interesting. But no, so we're gonna start to slow us down. But Nico, Kees, did you guys have anything else you wanted to throw towards Winston?
Just want to say, rewatch The Shawshank Redemption. It's a great movie.
Oh, it's one of my favorite. Like, that's the thing, though. It's like I said, I've seen it twice already, and I absolutely fucking love it. But I want to make sure I get the warden's name right. I want to make sure I fucking get all the breads back. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure I got all that shit, so I'm not fucking nothing up.
So the last question I can think of is, as we're moving closer to the fall, inner geekdom opportunities are going to be a little fewer and far between because of the focus on the Ultimate Schmoedown singles and teams tournaments coming up. So where does that leave you in terms of the picture for the rest of Season 6? Are you going to have at least one more match, or are you going to sit out and kind of let the chips fall where they may and then see how you can rebound for Season 7?
I think the big thing is I'm waiting for Comic-Con to be over, and then Christian and I are going to actually have a sit down and talk about the future of how we play things out going forward. So kind of the information I shared earlier about that, and then there's even talks of me potentially moving into the manager side of things a little bit, just because the other things that I also do pretty well, other than like make people laugh and shit like that and talk a lot of shit, is the entrances part of things too. That's the one thing that I would say that I picked up from Stacy. That is the biggest thing that came out of that team up was I take entrances very seriously now, and like costumes very seriously now. And so like so far, I wish so here was the funny thing. My Inner Geekdom match was taped before the World's Finest match, but the World's Finest match against Corruption aired first. So if you rewatch it, you can kind of see this little slight edit where it looks like I'm like talking to an imaginary friend. Well, they edited out Eric. It's actually what that was. And so I had actually developed this entire scene where and this was gonna help build up the tension of me and Eric breaking up, where he was essentially calls me on the phone because the match is about to start and I'm nowhere to be found. He's like, dude, where the fuck are you? Your match is right now. And I'm just chilling in the back. I'm like, oh shit, my bad. I'll be right there. Because if y'all remember, I was wearing that Goku outfit.
Yeah.
So then I instant transmission in and I appear and I give him high five and I go sit down. So it was supposed to be a buildup of I'm kind of being a lazy asshole. And so that was supposed to be a part of that. But they still got the teleportation in. But if you rewatch that entrance, you can kind of see me high-fiving an imaginary friend before they cut away. So
I need to watch this.
I don't know if I was supposed to give that secret away. I hope I don't get fired now. But I think that's the main goal that Christian and I both realized, is that it's not that I can't improve on the competing part and I can't come back to it, and I definitely will. It's that we're going to lean into what works well, what people have constantly been like, yo, this is what we enjoy seeing out of Winston. And then we'll pivot as is. So yeah, that's what we're going to really discuss once Comic-Con is over and everybody's a little more situated before we go into the fall.
If you do move into the management side, is there anyone in particular you'd like to take under your wing?
That's a great question. I really was a big fan of the kid. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Brendan Meyer.
Yeah, no, I really like him in the sense that what's funny about Brendan is he's just a really good guy. So I would enjoy managing him in the sense of I would be the bad cop for him, so he can just be innocent. I know everything, Brandon, and then I'm in here no, I got the shit. Let me handle your light work, bitch, and then go in and deal with whoever's trying to give him issues. But honestly, I'm open to whatever. I think whatever ends up working ultimately will be fun. But yeah.
Okay, here's a pitch. if you honestly, seriously go to management, given your
Mm-hmm.
personality, you need to hook up with Whitney Seibold.
No.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I was
Nico, shut the fuck up.
No, because he just said he wants to work with the kid. Now Bibiani is kind of working with the kid too, so that gives us the perfect opportunity to lean into the fact that Bibiani is really Deadpooling it. He's Deadpooling it.
Unless you're gonna set that up to have Bibbs and Whitney get back together, then no. Like let's see that kind of chemistry together. I think that'd be fascinating.
Back together.
You guys are killing me with your desire to see critically acclaimed.
They're my favorite team that's left. I don't have anybody
left. No, it's not left. That's the issue with it.
Well, as the only other dream matchup, because I'm a little behind right now. Same reason, just from being busy. But like I've always been a huge fan of the Wildberries, so that shit would also be kind of fun to just let them be. And like I could even imagine it being like, look, man, y'all are funny, but y'all got this like white frat boy culture going. Like we need to get y'all some soul, and then like kind of like do like a little on that. I feel like that shit would be hella fun, especially because both of those guys are fucking hilarious. So like that would also be like a fun time to do. But like I said, just depends on what what crazy concoction Christian and I can come up, mainly Christian, but that we can come up with.
And you know what? I think that's a perfect note to call it good on. So first off, Winston, dude, thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun, and we really want to have you back, preferably when you've got your next big project coming out, which hopefully won't take too long.
Hey man, I'm as a matter of fact, as soon as we get off, I've got an audition right now that I got to go tape, so it's all good. Hopefully it will be sooner than later, man.
Absolutely. So then with that, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. This has been a lot of fun. To all of our audio listeners on Anchor FM, thanks for checking us out, or whether you're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Thank you so much. And Winston, our guest tonight, where can the good folks find you online?
Yeah, easiest way you can find me at the Swaggy Blurred, TheSwaggybLerd. That's on Twitter, Instagram. About to take my own personal YouTube channel and convert that to that as well, so you can keep an eye out for that. We're going to get some more sketches and stuff going. And you can also check me out weekly with Jay Washington on his YouTube channel doing the DC Universe, reviews of all those shows that are on there. And we talk a lot of shit. So if you want to get a good laugh in, definitely check those out as well.
All right. Kees, where can the good folks find you online?
At Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelisse on Facebook and Letterboxd, and here on D2A hosting Schmoedown reactions as we talked about, and that's it.
All right, Nico, where can the good folks find you online?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 random meaningless numbers thrown in at the end on Discord. Multiplex Entertainment. For at least a few more weeks, Thaddeus Smith and I have a show called Crisis on Earthplex. It's going off the air after July 23rd. Sad face, but oh well. Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There is no letter G. And Rolling Crits, we finally got some episodes up. Check out our YouTube channel at Rolling Crits on various social media, more specifically Instagram.
All right. And you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page. And stay tuned, because, look, there's a lot of crap coming in the next few weeks, and obviously we're not doing any exclusive Comic-Con coverage, but once that finally happens, yeah, you're damn right we're going to be talking about Comic-Con, because there's going to be a lot of news coming out of it. But until then, guys, you all know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!